Okay, welcome to ProFrame 2015 training videos. In this video, I'm going to discuss how to globally send out invoices through email. And I'm going to go over this invoice print queue and this global invoice email. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and crank that up. And I want to show you that this W means that it's waiting. It's indicating that this customer is set up to receive invoices through email. And actually, he's got two invoices, so he would get two separate emails, one for each invoice. And then this third customer here is set up as well. Now I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to close that. I'm going to go into my customer file, and I'm going to pull up this EasyB software customer. I'm going to go to their profile. This indicates that I can print an invoice. Okay, it's just mail invoice, which is printing the invoice. In the email section, I'm also indicating that I can email this invoice. Now, I could just turn that off altogether and just always email him an invoice. But I could leave it on as well, and I'll show you why. So what I wanted to do here, I wanted to turn this off just to go back and show you what effect that had on this global. Now you'll notice this customer is no longer a W. Okay, it's simply because I turned it off. So I wanted to kind of show you that's how that works. So from the customer, you set up the options to print an email off of their profile. So I'm going to turn that back on, and again, I'm going to leave the print option on as well. And I'm also told the program that I can also email his statement. Okay? So I'm going to save that out, and hopefully I won't have to come back to the customer file again. So now I go into reports. I've done my work for the day. I've shipped. Now we can only email invoices that have been shipped. So at some point at the end of the day, you can come into here, go to your accounts receivable, go to global invoice. Now notice we have an invoice print queue as well. But what I want to do before I print in a global fashion, if I need to, I'm going to email first. Okay, so now you see that EasyB software is back on. So again, I've got three invoices here that would actually email right there. If I click email and started it, it would email. Now, one of the things that I've got to do before I can send email, I need to click my setup. And I need to set up the user account that is actually going to be the email account or the user account that this email is going to go out through. So once I set that up, it's set up and I don't have to worry about it again. Now let me show you where that's coming from. If I go to my user file, and if I go into the admin account, I see that I've set up an email address for this admin account. Okay, so I think I've got another video that I went over this with, but you got to make sure this is set up and working. Okay, now we'll get out of that. Let's go back to accounts receivable and let's do our global email. So what would happen, now these guys that are S, they simply are not on. their email invoice is not on. So they're not going to get an emailed invoice. And then, by the way, these are all open invoices. Now, if you posted a payment to an invoice, it's not going to show up here. Okay? So at this point, if I clicked email, which I'm not going to do, it would actually email those 3 invoices. And then it would mark that as a G, as a good, which means that tomorrow when I come in and run this again, these 3 customers will not re-email because they will have a G instead of a W. So it keeps track of what it's emailed and what it hadn't. So it won't redo it unless I want to resend it for whatever reason. And in that case, what I can do is double click the record here, and it will turn it. In this case, it was on, so it's turning it off. Okay, but had it been a G here and I double clicked it, it would have turned it on. It's reset to email. So it would reset itself. This is an option that I can change the email body, to a skip style email, which means that we may not have sent the email on the previous run. So that's either just a yes or no. A no just simply defaults. It's just going to send as a past due style, and that's asking you a past due style. So I would say no there as well. So essentially it's going to send the email as though it was the very first time. So that's how you would globally email invoices. Now, the next thing that you would want to do, if you choose to, you can come here, and even though these guys are showing waiting, this would actually not be a waiting here. Well, it actually would be, but if you'll notice this switch, essentially it's not going to print any emailed invoices. So these 3, this AA, that one, and that one would actually not print because I would have already sent the email, so it would only print these that are in waiting. Well, it would try to print those that are in waiting, but these would not be waiting at this point. They would have been emailed. So you don't have to use this feature unless you want to, but this is a way that you can globally print invoices at the end of the day. So as you're shipping, you don't have to print an invoice to every one of them, unless you want to. You could wait until the end of the day and then print all your invoices at one time. Most people don't really use this because they print, on the fly. So they'll when they're posting shipments, they'll print it if they need it. And so it's already printed, so there's no, most people don't really use this. But you could. And it'll keep track of what's been emailed versus what needs to print. Now again, this one, this AA, he's set up not to print, period. So that's why that's an S. Okay? But Easy B, if you remember when I pulled his account up, I had his print on and email on. Okay? And again, if I have that switch on and it's emailed, it won't print it here. Okay? Now that really is just about it. I mean, it's really not that complicated. It seems like it would be, but it's not really that complicated. The other little feature that is in the global email is a timer section. So if I wanted to, for whatever reason, if I had a lot of invoices in here that's going to be emailed, it can take some time to do it. I mean, it may take 5 seconds per invoice to email. So if you've got a lot of stuff and you don't want to fool with setting and watching it, I could easily set this time to, to run at 5 o'clock this afternoon. And I'd have to change that to PM. And then I could just click start, and then I could just leave. Because now the program's waiting till 5 o'clock, and then it will start emailing. So that's an option that you can use. And I'm just going to stop that, but I just wanted to show you that. Now this option, I can turn this on or off and see what has been processed. In a way, what I'm really doing is it defaults to see all, but as I turn that off, I'm only seeing the ones that are waiting to email. Okay? And of course, once it emails, it will update that automatically and know that that's been emailed. All right? Now, I don't think there's anything else that has anything to do with this, except one other thing that I want to make sure that we understand on statements. That's invoicing. But when you're printing statements, whether you are going to email statements or not, you need this on. If a customer should be getting a statement, this needs to be on, regardless of whether you're emailing it or not. Okay? In other words, what I'm saying is, if I come here and turn that off, and then come here and turn this on, this customer's not going to get an email statement. Because this feature is really controlling whether the customer should get a statement or not, period. This actually includes emailing or printing. So you want to make sure this is always on, whether you're going to, even if you're going to print or email. Essentially, this is saying, look, this customer never gets a statement. That's what that's really saying, whether it's emailed or not, or printed. So always leave that on. Control whether they get emailed or not from here. Okay? And of course, you've got to have an email address in the account. Let me pull this guy up and see what his looks like. Well, he had an email. I was trying to find somebody that doesn't have an email. That may be the same guy I just pulled up. Nope. All right, see this. There's no email address. So even if I come here and say, hey, I want to email the statement, email the invoice and email the statement, as soon as I try to come out, the program's going to tell you, well, it's going to automatically turn those off because there's no email address. Okay? Now, I think that just about really wraps this up. I don't think there's anything else that that you would need to set for that to work. And so the global invoicing, really, it keeps track of what it's already emailed, so it won't email it again. Okay? And that's basically how it works. So I guess the most important thing is that the customer has got to be set up with an email address, and you've got to turn on email the invoice in order for you to be able to email him at this level. And I think that just about does it. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good one.